Hi everyone, Rebecca here for Peartree Cutfiles. Today I have a process video for a challenge layout. So my challenge was focused on the letter S, and it includes sewing and the use of a stencil. So I have used this 8x8 completely dotty stencil from Peartree. Now I wanted to create a sort of a animal pattern in the background here, so I've gone through my scraps box. I actually didn't have any 12x12 black cardstock left, but luckily I hoard all my scraps so I was able to go through my scrap box and just take out the plain black cardstock and create a sort of a torn effect, to create kind of a zebra effect on the background. So as I've mentioned, Peartree Cutfiles has turned 2, which is amazing, and I've been with Peartree since the beginning, and so there's been lots of challenges been going live in the Facebook group for the last several days, all of them focused on different letters of the words Peartree Cutfiles. So yeah, this is my second one that I've done, and this one is the letter S. Okay, so I've kind of created my background and I've just lightly stuck that down just with a little bit of my tape runner, just so that I can kind of move those pieces around easily, but they don't move, you know, when I don't want them to. So I've got my stencil there and I'm kind of creating kind of a rainbow halo effect using my Distress Oxide inks. You can see the colours there on the left hand side of what I'm using, and I'm just kind of like brushing the different colours through that stencil, just to kind of create little rainbow dots around the sides of my zebra sort of stripes. You know, very realistic for an animal skin print. I just wanted to add some more colour, and I really love that. I particularly love that stencil. I'm a big fan of Peartree stencils, especially the 8x8 size. I find that's a really, really good size to use on 12x12 layouts, but you still retain the detail that you would get in a smaller stencil. So now I'm adding my sewing element to this page, and I'm using some black machine stitching just to sew those zebra patterns in place. You can see they're a bit clearer on the back, the shape that I've kind of sewn. And then I'm going to lift up the edges to get a little bit of texture on those edges. So next I have cut the Zoo cut file from the September 2021 release, and I cut it in black cardstock again from my scraps box and I'm going to back it with pieces from my scraps box. What a surprise. I kind of wanted various different animal prints and things in the background, so I thought black would probably be the best shade to cut that cut file in, and then add various different colours to the sort of as a backing. So I've kind of got a zebra print there. I'm kind of going for like a crocodile sort of turtley print there with the green. I decided to add some watercolour pencils onto the actual cut file itself, just to add a little bit more sort of shading onto those little sort of shell shapes. And then at the end there, the second I've kind of gone with like a tiger sort of colour. So I'm going to add an offset border behind my zoo letters, and I've cut just a sort of 2mm offset border using my machine on bubblegum cardstock, and it's a super bright pink shade and I love it, and I've been dying to use it for ages, and I just wanted loads of colour on this page, so yeah, I've just kind of added that as a little peak. I kind of offset it slightly around my zoo lettering. Now, because I've popped my zoo cut file up on some foam, I'm going to add my photographs, and I'm going to have to pop those up on foam as well, so that everything sort of sits kind of flush and nothing's wonky on my page. So I'm kind of going to double layer some foam adhesive at the bottom of those. Now, sadly, this is my last layout for Peartree Cutfiles. I will be leaving at the end of this term. I've been with Peartree for 2 years, since the very beginning, and I've absolutely loved it. I'm really sad to go. I'm starting a course soon, and I really have to focus all of my spare time onto that. So I've kind of been cutting down on my sort of extracurricular commitments, so that I can focus on doing that. But I'm super sad to be leaving. I love Peartree Cutfiles and all of the products, and I'm really made some very good friends working with Peartree and working with Marie, so I'm sad to go, but I've made some lovely friends. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more to the title. I'm going to have "Hooray, it's a zoo day," and I have some chipboard alphas from Imagine That by Echo Park, and that's going to be the rest of my title. I haven't got any kind of zoo themed collection or even even vaguely animal themed collection. So hence I'm just kind of using what I've got in my stash for this layout. So I got to this point and I felt like my stenciling was looking too neat. I wanted a bit more colour, so I decided to add a little bit of water onto those areas of stenciling. Now the white background paper that I've used is some of the Vicky Boutin foundation paper, so it takes water really, it's really good at taking water. It doesn't warp too much, so it was perfect really that I'd use that in the background. I hadn't planned on doing this, but I love how it came out in the end, although it does kind of melt away some of my stenciling, so I do end up adding a bit more of that stencil detail over the top. So theoretically, going back and doing this again, I should have done this first before I'd sewn my zebra stripes down, but making a layout, you live and learn. So I'm just kind of melting some of that Distress Oxide, and it activates really well with the water. And I got to this point, decided I wanted to add even more colour, so just using the packaging technique with some of that Distress Oxide to add yet more colour. So I've just pressed the ink pad down onto the plastic, activated it with a little wet paintbrush, and just kind of painted some areas of colour behind my zebra stripes and behind my cut file. So as I've mentioned off camera, I have added a little bit of that stencil detail back in because it was lost where I've gone over it with water, and there you can see the effect. You've got the sort of hazy background colour with some of the stencil detail and concentrated dots of colour as well through the stencil. So thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for joining my Peartree adventures for the last 2 years. I've absolutely loved being on the Peartree team. I love the products. I love all of the creations that you can come up with all those lovely sort of bits and pieces. And thank you for joining me. This was Rebecca B for Peartree Cutfiles. Bye.